Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon, let's get to it.
Good morning. Welcome to Undisputed. It's Friday. How are you guys doing today? I'm with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, and I'm ready to get this show going.
So am I, Jenny. I am so ready to get going. I can't wait, Skip Bayless.
Shannon Sharp, you've been in trouble all week, and I believe you're going to be in more trouble starting right now.
Well, hopefully Sunday, after Sunday, which will be one of the happiest days of my life, we can stop this blasphemy of one GOAT James. That's what I want to happen.
Oh, Shannon, you have been defending your guy all week. Good news for us. We also have Eric Dickerson joining us later on in the show. But you know what? Only appropriate that we start by talking about Michael Jordan and those Bulls, because it's hard to believe, but we are going to see the end of The Last Dance. It concludes this Sunday, and Skip, you taped a social media video to be released on Sunday afternoon in which you go into great detail about two big one-on-one interviews you did late in the Bulls' 98 season with GM Jerry Krause and head coach Phil Jackson, both of which you said blew your mind. So, Skip, I want to ask you your final takeaway from covering the Bulls in 1998 and that season.
Jenny, in all my years in this business, I've never found myself in something so baffling, so confounding, so troubling, and ultimately so mind-blowing as what I found myself in the middle of in 1998 as the columnist for the Chicago Tribune, watching The Last Dance from the inside out. Big sit-down interviews in late March with Jerry Krause, the GM, and then in early May during the Charlotte playoff series, big sit-down in Phil Jackson's office with the coach of the Bulls. And what I heard from each of these two men, whose relationship obviously had completely deteriorated, was just difficult for me to process. And I remind everybody, I had just come to Chicago before that season, straight from Dallas, Texas, where I'd written 3 books about the Dallas Cowboys. The second of those books predicted that Jerry Jones would soon fire Jimmy Johnson. That was after their first Super Bowl. Obviously, they won a second together, and then Jerry fired Jimmy, as my book predicted in the final chapter would happen. Everybody told me I was out of my mind then, but I said, no, this is predictable. That blow up I got. This one I still can't get. And Shannon, here's the point. During that playoff run, I caught Michael after one game, and I told him that Phil was just openly saying, and we were all presuming, that if Phil got fired, if his contract didn't get renewed, and we knew that was going to happen because he and Jerry had fallen completely apart, that everybody presumed that Michael was going to go too. And Phil was openly saying to everybody, including me in that big sit-down interview, that Michael had run out of gas in 1998, and because of his loyalty to Phil, he was just going to flat out retire. Remember, we're talking about the greatest player who ever played in any team sport, willing to walk away in the heart of his prime, or at least at the end of his prime, and missing his age 35, 36, and 37 season by just sitting out, which is what he ultimately, as we know, did. But when I asked Michael about Phil's contention that Michael would just up and retire, Michael really coldly replied to me, that's Phil's opinion. And that was the first sign of life and hope that I heard from Michael Jordan. And it made me very happy because there was no reason for Michael to go too. And as we all know, Jerry Krause had plucked Phil Jackson out of obscurity. He was a coach in the CBA for the Albany Patroons, hired him as assistant coach. Then when Phil kissed up and buddied up to Jerry Krause, Jerry fell in love with Phil and finally replaced Doug Collins with Phil Jackson. Doug had coached Michael for 3 of his early years. And yet, once Phil got hold of the reins of the organization and they won their first championship, Phil completely turned on Jerry. He had just duped him to get the job and began to mistreat him just the way Michael and Scotty shamed and ridiculed little tiny, the penguin, as I called him, Jerry Krause. So Jerry Krause was livid and wanted to get even with Phil. We get that. And he already had a handshake agreement with Tim Floyd from Iowa State to be the new coach of the Bulls. So I publicly encouraged Michael to just forget about Phil, forget about Tim Floyd, as they called him Pink Floyd off the rock group. That was their sarcastic term for him because Phil loved Pink Floyd. And I thought Michael could then go to Jerry Krause and say, hey, look, I realize the bridge is burned between Jerry and Phil. I got it. They'll never coexist again. So let's forget about Phil, but don't give me Tim Floyd or Pink Floyd. Give me a real coach. Bring back Doug Collins. Obviously, Doug ultimately went with Michael for his last hurrah years, 38 and 39 years old in Washington. Give me Doug Collins back. Give me anybody who's a made man in the NBA as a head coach, anybody with credibility, stature, and experience, and I'll go forward. Why Michael wouldn't do that to this day haunts me, because that was the move to be made. And I believe Jerry Reinsdorf would have compromised with that move. Keep Jerry Krause as the GM, bring in another coach that Michael signs off on, not Tim Floyd. But as we all know, Michael stuck by his guns inexplicably, which is why I can't wait for maybe episode 10 of The Last Dance. I want to hear what Michael says about this, because I wrote to conclude my column in June that year. I said, the worst sports thought I could ever think is Michael Jordan gone at age 35 and Phil still coaching at 53. And as we all know, Phil went right on. It took 1 year. He went right on to the Lakers and wound up coaching Shaq and Kobe to 3 straight championships. And what did I always call Phil? Everybody called him the Zen master. I called him the spin master. I never trusted him. I never trusted his sort of Svengali hold over Michael. Michael was very impressionable when it came to Phil, and I believe that Phil talked or almost duped Michael into retiring out of loyalty to Phil when he did not need to. Phil didn't retire. Phil went on and won 3 more championships in a row with Shaq and Kobe. He had a 3-peat in LA. So I believe that Michael also got taken for a ride by the spin master, as I call him. And in the end, it was the most confounding and actually the saddest story I've ever covered.
Well, to your point, let me start with your points before I make mine, Skip. The reason why he didn't talk to Jerry Krause, because Jerry Krause and Jerry Reinsdorf was 2 people that he couldn't bully. Because you know why, Skip? They had more power within the organization than him. See, you can bully Steve Kerr and Scotty Burrell and some of those others because they're a player. You are the best player, so you have you're able to reign over them with your tenure, with your play. But you notice he can never bully Jerry Krause. Every player that he basically said he wanted, Skip, and this is documented, Jerry Krause went and got somebody totally opposite. If Jerry Reinsdorf, and like I said, Jerry Krause took a lot of criticism, took a lot of heat, but Jerry Krause was just a shield. This was Jerry Reinsdorf, because he could have made all this a moot point. He could have said, Jerry, you're going to stand down on this. We're going to keep this thing rolling until the wheels fall off. But when Jerry Krause went to Jerry Reinsdorf and says, this is what I want to do, okay. You see what happened, Skip? It happened again, rest his soul, with Abe Polian in Washington. You see, when people have more power than you, you can't bully them. That's why he couldn't bully Jerry Krause. He could, like you said, he could have, but he knew what the answer was. Jerry Krause made it abundantly clear. He can go 82-0, win all of his playoff games by 30, and he's still not coming back. And if Michael retires, Michael's earned the right to do whatever he wants to do. So it was a moot point. So he was like, I'm not wasting my time because there might be a time later in life I'm going to need that energy. I'm going to need that breath that I'm wasting on Jerry Krause and Jerry Reinsdorf. That's why he didn't do it, Skip. You know why he didn't do it. Because he couldn't bully them. He couldn't put them in a corner like, hold on, Skip. Well, I thought winning. So you mean to tell me he said winning, and if you don't want to win, get out the way or move and don't do it? Jerry Krause said, nah, we good here. Skip, look. At the end of the first three-peat, he said that he was exhausted. He was tired. The media barrage, the constant criticism. And it has started to, they started to say, well, what happened with your father was a direct correlation of what was transpiring with Michael in his personal life. I don't believe that, but the constant criticism. Skip, you mean me the toughest, the most mentally tough guy in the history of sports couldn't handle media criticism? Wow. Imagine what he would have to go through in the social media age today. Imagine what LeBron James hears constantly. There was no debate shows. There was no 24-hour news cycle on sports in 98, 97, when Michael was in his heyday, in his prime. Can you imagine the criticism if some of the things that was reported, going gambling, Skip, the day of, what was that, the night after or the day before playoff games or the constant golfing. Can you imagine the criticism? Imagine a player now, Skip, in basketball, say it be LeBron James or Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and that would be caught in the casino before a championship game or after a championship game. They would get reamed.
He got reamed. That was the thing. He got reamed. He was caught. Yeah, that everybody wrote about it. Everybody wrote. It was everywhere.
And that's my point. The criticism, the barrage. Remember, Magic said, y'all keep being on the guy, you're going to run him away from the game. Imagine what LeBron has been going through since he was 17, the constant criticism. I'm just saying, Skip, the thing was, and I agree with you on this, this is what you and I agree. You and I agree that Jerry Reinsdorf and Jerry Krause should have let this thing roll out. Let all the gas run out of the car, Skip. And if it puts you downside the road in the middle of the season, oh, well, you put you down in the middle of the season. But I don't believe he should have broken it up. I believe he should have let somebody else break it up, Skip. Normally, empires just don't say, you know what? We're tired of lording over all this vast territory. You know what? Let's just give it up. Normally, somebody from the outside comes and takes it over. Or, within this case, like the Roman Empire, it fell from within, Skip. So when I look at it, I agree. I believe Jerry Krause, Jerry Reinsdorf should have let it go. But Michael, do I believe Michael should have at least voiced it, gone to Jerry Krause, gone to Jerry Reinsdorf? But I believe, Skip, like he said with Scotty, they never tore up Michael, Skip, they never tore up Michael Jordan's contract. So the likelihood of them tearing up Scotty's contract and extending him when they never did that for Michael was not going to happen. And remember in the doc, Skip, Michael said Scotty knew Jerry Krause wasn't going to do that contract, redo his contract. So Michael, having been with Jerry Krause basically since after his first year, 1985, if I'm not mistaken, Skip, he took over for Rod Thorne. He knew Jerry Krause frontward and back. And when Jerry Krause got something in his head, Skip, that was it. There was no turning back. But I thought of all this, yes, Skip, Jerry Krause, maybe you don't like him. But I thought Jerry Reinsdorf, Skip, had been portrayed very favorably in this documentary. When you and I both know, when you peel everything away, he was the owner. Skip, how does a general manager have more control, more say-so within an organization than the owner? If Jerry Reinsdorf, just like he did in 98, when he brought Phil back for that last dance, he could have said, I'm bringing Phil back again in 99 for another last dance. Skip, 550, encore. Well, I'm bringing Phil back. Could have been the last dance, Skip. I'm going to do an encore. Okay, that's it. And then the singer goes back, and then he comes back out and gives you another set, maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes. That's what Jerry Reinsdorf could have demanded of Jerry Krause. Bring Phil back for an encore, and we'll see how this thing plays out. But what I'm going to take most from the documentary, Skip, is that, like I said, I knew about on the on-court stuff. But behind the scenes, the maniacal guy, what he was willing to endure, what he was willing to go through, what he was willing to push his teammates to get to a level. That's what I'm most impressed with, Skip. Like I said, being quarantined has forced me to watch something other than, politics, Skip. And so I've watched a lot of documentaries. And so Skip, I knew Sam Cooke could sing, just like Sam Cooke can sing. But when you watch his documentary, you get an opportunity to see a different side of Sam Cooke that I did not know exists. I did not know he had that type of relationship with Muhammad Ali. I did not know that he was in Miami at that fight, Skip, and he and Jim Brown, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Muhammad Ali was in a room together. I didn't know that. So now you get an opportunity to see Michael Jordan off the court. Everybody saw him on the court, Skip, especially you did. You were covering day to day, but you saw some of the things behind the scenes. I did not see that behind the scenes, so that was great for me to see.
Is the show over? I have never heard one person talk so long on Undisputed in the history of the show as you just talked. You said a whole lot of nothing. Let's get back to the first three-peat. And you said, he burned out. He couldn't take the media heat. Baloney.
That's what he said.
You agreed with me right here on the show. You agreed. I think it's my turn to talk now. You agreed that it had to do with gambling. It was some kind of a suspension / forced hiatus that he took off to play baseball. You agreed after the first couple of episodes.
No.
Yep, that's what was going on. You're suspicious about it. I'm real suspicious about it to this day. It made no sense to me. He cost himself 2 championships right there. So he missed those 2. He missed a season and about 3/4 of the next season and was not ready to play Orlando, obviously, in the playoffs and the conference finals. And now we fast forward to Jerry Reinsdorf. And I got to tell you, I resent you calling the GOAT a bully. He is not a bully. He was simply the greatest leader / motivator in the history of sports. Not one player who played with him has called him a bully. Not one player has said publicly, I hate him. I couldn't stand him. They all thought there was method to the madness. All of his ridicule, whatever hell that he made some pay, it was all to make their weakness a strength, and they all contributed down the stretch. And I told you yesterday, I showed you that roster. It was, to quote the great LeBron James, top heavy as bleep. It was Scottie Pippen, nothing but a Robin to Batman. And then it was a Rodman who barely was able to stay in bounds thanks to the guidance of Michael Jeffrey Jordan. And after that, it was just a bunch of guys that he turned into winners. He toughened all of them up. And when you say, Jerry Reinsdorf is the one guy he couldn't bully. Baloney, he couldn't bully him. He just didn't try to use his power to power play him. If he had gone public, if he had come to me and said, I need you to print this, print that. I went to Jerry Reinsdorf and I said, Jerry, pick any coach who is experienced in the NBA, not Tim Floyd. I will stay for 2 more years and we'll win 2 more championships. If he had said that, that's a power play. I don't think Jerry Reinsdorf could have withstood the media beating he would have taken under those conditions. But Michael got Svengali'd. He got Machiavellined by Phil Jackson. Phil talked him into, we've got to do this together. We've got to retire. We've got to quit on them. Let's quit together. And Phil quit for 1 year, and then he goes to L.A. and coaches Shaq and Kobe.
Skip, no. Don't wimp out. Say, pick any coach you like, and I'll come back. Bring Phil back. That's the ultimate power play. Tell Jerry Reinsdorf, bring Phil back and let us win 2. Whoa.
No, you can't win that.
You mean to tell me to go?
No, can't win it.
Why?
Can't win it.
Why?
No.
He Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
Phil, well, I just told you what happened. Phil had turned on Krause. Krause picked Phil and he turned on him. He duped him into getting picked and getting elevated, and he turned on him. Michael could not defend that. Michael bought into the spin master's spin, so it was up to Michael to step back and say, you know what, in the end, Krause, Phil, they're just 2 June bugs on my windshield in the finals, splattering on my windshield. I can go forward by myself. My team is not too old. Scotty went on and played 6 more years. Steve Kerr went on and won 2 more rings. Ron Harper went on and won 2 more rings with the Lakers. Every player on that team went on. Dennis Rodman went on and averaged 10 rebounds for the Mavericks and then 14 for the Lakers. They all still had plenty of gas in the tank to win 2 more championships. It should have been 10 straight championships for Michael Jordan, and then you would not have any leg to stand on.
But see, it's just like his bullying. It was very selective in who he chose to bully. I read a story yesterday, Skip. I read a story yesterday about him and Robert Parrish. And Robert Parrish says, "I'm not enamored with you because I have rings." Michael said, "I'm going to kick your you know what." The chief says, "I took 2 steps toward him," and says, "No, you're not." And Michael, I never had another problem with Michael. You see, Michael had selective, as Charles Barkley said, he had selective bullying. Who he knew who to bully and who to get him and who he could bully and who he couldn't. Why didn't he go, if he's what you said he is, why not go to Jerry Reinsdorf? Make a power play. Go to Skip Bayless. Skip, I want you to write this and I want you to put it in big bold letters. Jerry Reinsdorf, if you bring Phil back, I'll come back. He didn't do that because of Skip. There is no Skip. Nobody can bully a billionaire unless you're on their level. Michael Jordan wasn't on their level. Now, maybe now if he was a billionaire and you can transport him back and he'd be 34 and have the amount of money that he has, okay, we could have a different argument. But at that time, Jerry Reinsdorf looked at him like, you still a player. I pay your salary. You're rich, I'm wealthy. There's a difference between the two. That's why he couldn't bully him, Skip Bayless. You can make it all you want to. He didn't want that pick a coach, but that's what bullies do. They select guys they view as weak, and they pick on them. He knew Jerry Krause had more power within the organization than he did, and so did Jerry Reinsdorf because he owned the team. So that's why he didn't bully. You can dress it up. You can dress it up all you want to and say, well, I and Shannon, you talk and you said absolutely nothing. But at the end of the day, as simple as this, that's what I got from the documentary.
Nothing. You're still saying absolutely nothing. He got spun by the spin master. That's what happened.
Everybody spinning.
Phil convinced him. Phil convinced him, let's both take a year. Let's quit. Let's walk into the sunset together. And Phil kept walking and walking and walked all the way to L.A. to coach Shaq and Kobe.
Hold on,
way to go, Michael. You took 3 years off.
A man, the most mentally tough, the guy that has the strongest mind in the history of sports, got spun. He got duped. He got led astray. He got run amok. Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Oh, so I'm confused, Skip, now. How can a man that has the strongest man, the most indomitable will in the history of team sports, maybe in sports, period, how could he let a man dupe him? Skip, I'm confused. Now, you need to shed some light. I'm going to turn it back over to you. You need to tell me, how does a man that has that kind of intestinal fortitude, that kind of mind, gets duped? I need to hear from you right now.
Because as opposed to LeBron James, he actually looked up to and respected coaches, head coaches. LeBron has always coached his own team. And I'm going to quit saying I resent it, because in the end, all you've got now is bully. Oh, now I can dismiss him as a bully. It's the biggest crock that you've ever tried to sell on this show before. It's all you've got. In the end, it's over. Thank you, Last Dance. It's the last dance for you and your LeBron is the GOAT argument, which is the weakest argument in the history of sports.
But, Skip, you make it seem like two things can't be true. That because a person is a great athlete, he must be a great person. He must be a great leader. And every great attribute that comes along with being a great athlete, when you and I both know that's not true, but you try to play that because you want Michael Jordan to be this idyllic figure, this perfect. There's nothing wrong with Michael. He has no flaw. Yes, you do.
I told you from the start. I told you before the documentary started, it's going to come across that he's merciless, ruthless, heartless, method to madness. 6 championships in 6 tries with 6 MVPs with a team that was not that talented. That is basketball genius. That is GOAT.
And the two little white guys in the suits, he couldn't bully. The 2 smallest guys, he couldn't bully, and it broke up. Bam!
No mercy.
Giants' first-round pick from last year, DeAndre Baker, and Seahawks corner Quinton Dunbar, well, they were both accused of armed robbery in Florida, and a warrant has been issued for their arrest. Now, according to the warrant, Baker and Dunbar robbed guests of money and jewelry at a cookout on Wednesday. Shannon, your reaction to the story?
Skip, this is just baffling to me, is that all your life, your work, just get to kind of leave these environments. If you listen to a lot of guys' stories, especially the African-American guys that make professional sports, Skip, they do everything they possibly could to leave that environment, to leave that type of situation, make good, get mom, get dad, get others out of that situation so they don't have to go back there. I'm confused. Now, Skip, it's reported that, they had lost, they were gambling earlier, they lost money and they returned a day or two later to recoup their losses. So I'm confused. If you don't want to lose money, Skip, don't gamble. Skip, you're a first-round pick. You got a contract worth over $10 million, and now all of a sudden you want to turn into a jack boy? You going to try to hit a lick on somebody? What are you thinking? Skip, it's a simple Skip, and they show up with no mask. Skip, there's a simple philosophy, Skip, when you're doing shady stuff like this. No face, no case. No name, no blame. Skip, everybody there knew who they were. Skip, how can I go back to Glenville and talk about sticking up somebody, Skip? Everybody know who the hell I am. I ain't got no face. Skip, hold up, Skip, I was reading a story where some NBA player, Skip, tried to do a hold-up. He was 7 foot tall in Detroit. And they said, hey, such and such, is that you? He like, nah, that ain't me. And it was him. Skip, you can't do this. And then you leave in a Mercedes, a BMW, and a Lamborghini. Skip, who jacking people in Lambos? This makes no sense. And I'm not even worried about the commissioner. You better worry about the DO of Broward County or Dade County somewhere. That's what you need to be worried about. Skip, it was reported that some teams took Baker off their board because of attitude, because of personality. Skip, I can't even believe. I was reading it, and I said, well, maybe it's a case of mistaken identity. Skip, why would you do this? Just chalk it up to the game, Skip. We've all lost money, be it Vegas or playing cards or rolling dice. We've all lost money, Skip. That's a part of it. But you can't go back and try to recoup your losses that way, OJ.
So
Vegas, OJ, Skip.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I brought that up to somebody on the show earlier this morning. It sounds just like OJ all over again. That's my money, my stuff, my memorabilia. I'm going to go get it back. With guns?
Right.
Probably not. Not a good idea. Okay.
No.
So these stories tear me apart because it's possible that in a flashpoint of a moment, in like 5 minutes, both of these young men threw their lives away. It's possible. We don't know how it's all going to fall out. All we know for sure is that arrest warrants have been issued against these two. And one is against DeAndre Baker for 4 counts of armed robbery with a firearm and 4 counts of aggravated assault with a firearm. And then Quinton Dunbar just got 4 counts of armed robbery with a firearm. There were some mixed accounts. Did he have a gun or not, Quinton Dunbar? I don't know. We don't know all those facts yet. We just know this is not it's just nothing's good going to come of this, obviously. And is a horrible look. And just to remind everybody of the stature of these 2 young men, DeAndre Baker won the Jim Thorpe Award while at Georgia for the best defensive back in America. He was first team All-American, and he was a late first-round draft choice of the New York Football Giants, number 30 in the first round. And he got good money. He got to sign $5.7 million signing bonus. His guarantees are supposed to be up to $9 million. It's a decent contract. You're making pretty good money that a lot of people your age not making. He's only 22 years of age. Quinton Dunbar was actually undrafted. And by the way, both of the young men are from, as you point out, born and raised in Miami. DeAndre Baker went to Northwestern High School. Quinton Dunbar went to Booker T. Washington in Miami. Then Quinton Dunbar went to Florida, undrafted, but obviously as a Redskin, rose to prominence. And Last year, Pro Football Focus ranked Quinton Dunbar the second best cornerback in all of football. He was on the rise. He had just been traded to Seattle. And if I might, if you'll give me just a second, Shannon, to open up my phone. Here's a text I got last night from Rob Ryan, obviously Rex's twin brother that we have on the show a lot. Last year, a year ago, Rob was the defensive backfield coach in Washington, so he knows Quinton Dunbar very well. And he said, this is quote from, and listen, Rob is a straight shooter. There's no BSing going on here. He said, Quinton is a great kid, very smart, and studied all the time. He was the only one in the secondary that knew the opponent. I recommended him to a friend of mine in Seattle, meaning to trade for him, which they did. And he said he was just entering his prime. He reminded me of Nnamdi Asomugha. And again, Nnamdi failed once he got his money and went to Philly. We know that. But there was a time in Oakland when Nnamdi was considered a top cornerback. Okay, so this is the stature. Yes, the top. This is the stature we're dealing with DeAndre and Quinton. And then to your point, I don't know the exact details, but it sounds like they lost a ton of money. It was reported 70 grand in one card game with these people in somebody's backyard. And then they went back to the same card game a couple of nights later. And it sounds like, we don't know the exact details and the truth here, but it sounds like, to your point, let's get our money back. Maybe they think they got cheated. I don't know. And you know the rest of the story. And several eyewitnesses says it looked like it was a planned robbery because a third accomplice came in a mask. So they don't have masks on. They're well known. The accomplice, we don't know, has a mask on. And they had their three cars, Lambo, BMW, whatever the Mercedes. They had them lined up outside like getaway cars. So it sounds like they decided, let's go get our money back. Don't know the details, not trying to convict them in the court of public opinion. But the point is, it's just so wrong. What are you thinking? You have your whole future ahead of you, your life ahead of you. And it's pretty good. It looks like it. I know DeAndre struggled last year and he got taken out of some games, but he's a good young player, and he was going to still do good things. And he'd already made a whole nice chunk of early 22-year-old money. You don't need this. It's like foolish pride, foolish macho, machismo, whatever you want to call it. And now look, now they're going to be taken into custody, and, you know, God bless both of them. But Shannon, it's just hard for me to process what just happened, because they both had so much to lose and they just might have lost it all.
It's so true, Skip. And the thing is, Skip, when you did look, and I don't know, I can just speak for me, Skip. When I would go home to Glenville, I would gamble with the guys, but they was like, well, Sharp, these games are too small for you. You need to go to this place or that place where they play for high dollars. Yeah. I say, bro, I don't know them. I say, I know y'all. I trust you guys. I don't trust them, because I'm telling you, as soon as they find out I'm going to come, I got this, they're going to lay everybody down. It's not worth it. I lose a couple of grand to you guys. I don't care. I'm going to take you out. We're going to go to the huddle house. We're going to eat breakfast. We're going to talk about what we did and used to do in high school, and I'm going to laugh and talk. Skip, I'm gambling with people around the table. I'm lending them money. I'm like, hold on. How y'all going to ask people money, you guys still at the table? But Skip, I knew them. They borrowed money from me. Well, I pay it back to Libby. That's my sister named Libby. I said, hold on. Libby not lending you the money. But Skip, that's the type of relationship that I have with them. I'm not going somewhere that I'm unfamiliar with and gamble because they cheat and things get out of hand. And then somebody going to come, you got a paper with big money, Skip. Somebody going to come and you already know what it is. Lay it down. I've seen situations like that. So no, but Skip, if you got a Lambo, you got a BMW, you got a Mercedes, you're playing in the NFL, chalk that $70,000 up, because a temporary moment just could possibly lead to a lifetime of regret. Man, don't put yourself in that situation, man. You in the NFL and now you want to be a jack boy. You want to go back and try to hit a lick because you lost? Man, y'all out y'all mind. Y'all out of your mind.
So, Shannon, you're in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and every year you go back and you socialize and fraternize with other Hall of Famers. And trust me, every one of them, no matter their color, no matter their background, they all hit some fork in the road. They all could have taken one split-second wrong path, made one wrong decision that could have cost all of you guys the Hall of Fame. But fortunately, everybody said, no, I can't do that. No, I can't risk doing that. And you stayed on the path that took you to the Hall.
Skip, you making $10 million. You just got so you got $6 million just last year. And now you want to go hit somebody just hit you up for $70,000. You want to go get it back? Man, just was hey, bro, y'all got me on this one, but I can't believe it. Skip, when I was reading, I didn't believe it. I was like, this is a case of mistaken identity. And then you hear eyewitness after eyewitness, and they ain't got no mask. You were just there 2 days before, and then you come back. Boy, they lucky. They lucky they catch the right people there, because Skip, that could have ended tragically. Because normally when you have backyard card games, I don't know how they do it everywhere else, but let me tell you, when you have backyard card games, where I grew up at, 2 to 3 people got that piece on them. Believe that.
No, I got it.
No easy way to wrap that one up as we wait for more details to come out regarding the situation.
No mercy.
Since the Packers traded up to draft quarterback Jordan Love, we haven't heard from Aaron Rodgers yet. Well, that is about to change. Later today, Rodgers is scheduled to speak at 3 Eastern. So, Shannon, I start with you. What do you want to hear from Aaron Rodgers today?
Boy, I sure wish Aaron Rodgers would be. Okay, I'm Aaron Rodgers, Jenny. How's everybody doing? I think everybody understands that why I'm speaking today. And you want to know, well, how does Aaron think? What's Aaron thinking? How's he feeling? I'm peed the F off. These mofos just go pick another quarterback. How does he help us win this year? We were 1 game from the Super Bowl. How does a quarterback help us win this year? I'm going to ask you, such and such. How does he help us win? Can he catch passes? Can he run the ball? Can he guard a receiver? No, and no. But they go get a quarterback anyway. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out here and I'm going to ball out. You know what? I'm going to have one of my better seasons. And when I win that MVP, I'm going to be close. I'm going to get us in the playoffs. We're going to the playoffs. I'm not even worried about that. But I want everybody from top to bottom. And, I don't need to call your name. You know who you are. If you were in on this decision, I want you to kiss where the sun don't shine. I'm going to play. I'm going to ball out. But I just want you to know it's not my job to get Jordan Love ready. I will not turn him away. If he asks me a question, I will politely answer that question. If he needs anything from me, if he comes to me, I will give him information. But if you think I'm inviting him over to my house, if you think I'm going to see him in the hallway, and hey, bro, let's grab this study session, that's not happening. That's the coach's job. They get paid to coach, I get paid to play. I'm going to play my you-know-what off. But I'm ticked the you-know-what off. Y'all make me sick. All y'all. Y'all been right about my demise for the last 5 years. I haven't slowed down the least bit. But you know what? They have yet to ever draft me a receiver in the first round. They have yet to draft me a tight end in the first round. But I keep making magic. I keep making chicken salad out of chicken you-know-what, and I will continue to do it. I'm going to have an unbelievable season this year, and you're going to look foolish because the only way he's going to play, y'all going to have to get rid of me. And you know what? I can't say I'll be disappointed if you did.
Aaron, that is simply the most profanity that has ever been uttered on Undisputed, and I hope the FCC gives us a break because Aaron said it. Shannon didn't say it. Aaron said it. Remember, FCC, it's Aaron's fault. Aaron.
Yes.
Yes.
You bleepity bleeps.
Yeah. For once, I would love to hear Aaron Rodgers look in the mirror and deliver a painfully honest self-analysis that went something like, I know I haven't played up to my standards the last 3 years, so I don't blame them for drafting Jordan Love because they deserve to draft Jordan Love. And now it's up to me to lock back in and to rededicate and to rise back to the level that I know I'm capable of playing at. That's what I wish he would say. And if he would say that today, if he would show some humility, then it would certainly shut me up, because I have often called Aaron on this show the LeBron James of the National Football League. I've often said that Aaron leads the league in finger-pointing, blame-deflecting diva-ness, because he is a diva and he is a thin-skinned diva, and he takes everything personally, but it's never his fault. It's always his receiver's fault or his management's fault. The truth is, he has declined over the last 3 years. The truth is, his QBR has fallen for each of the last 3, and his completion percentage has fallen for each of the last 3. In the end, you cannot condemn his management for taking Jordan Love, for trading up and picking him in the first round, because they're going to need a quarterback, it appears, sooner than later, as Aaron approaches age 37. And a lot of people out there before the draft thought that Jordan Love can turn into Patrick Mahomes. If that's true, then they made a nice move. And again, Aaron didn't get the receiver help in the first round in a very deep draft of receivers that he deserved. I give you that much. But his play didn't merit it. His play is getting dangerously average. And in the end, they have to sit back in management and say, we haven't been to a Super Bowl in almost 10 years. So Aaron pulled off one miraculous road wild card run to a Super Bowl that he won over the Pittsburgh Steelers. And yet since then, his playoff record is 6-7. And many of those, at least 5 of those 6, were questionable playoff wins, because one came against Joe Webb, another came against Kirk Cousins when he was really struggling in Washington, another came in the Dez Caught It game at Lambeau, and then another when Odell took his receivers to South Beach to get ready for the game up on the frozen tundra at Lambeau, the playoff game, and the Giants stunk it up, and Aaron was able to take advantage of that. And then obviously there was the Mason crossbar game that still haunts me at Jerry World, in which it took 2 intergalactic field goals of 51 and 56 yards. I still don't know how they went over the crossbar, but they did. And it took those to save them from losing that game to Dak and company. So Aaron has not been great in the playoffs since the Super Bowl run. And I can't argue with the 2010 and 2011 seasons, but Shannon, we're in 2020. We're heading toward 2021. It's been too long. So it's time for Aaron to show a little bit of humility and show that the Jordan Love selection has relit his fire. That's what I'd like to hear from him. My fire is relit. I'm going to show you.
You assume Aaron Rodgers does not have a fire because he's not posting everything he's doing like Tom Brady. Tom Brady's in his backyard with shoulder pads. Tom Brady's throwing passes. So you automatically assume because he doesn't do that, he's not ignited. His fire, he doesn't have the passion like Tom Brady. But Skip, what you didn't tell people, that in his losses, he has a 37-point loss. Didn't they give up 37 points? The defense gave up 37 points last year in the championship game. They gave up 44 to Atlanta. They gave up 51 one year to the Arizona Cardinals. They gave up another 37 to Eli Manning. They gave up 30 to Arizona with the overtime game, Larry Fitzgerald on the shovel pass. That was like 30 points. At some point in time, Skip, how about give him some help? How about the defense one time? Tom Brady has in 40 playoffs given up 30 points or more. Twice. Aaron Rodgers got 6 of them in the last 8 years. But you're talking about, he got to overcome that. Well, I know your guy should have overcame giving up that 41 in the Super Bowl, right, Skip? Because that's what GOATs do. GOATs overcome adversity. They overcome. That's what you tell me. That's what you want Aaron Rodgers to do. Mm-hmm. But your guy didn't do it. Your guy couldn't score 15 points in a playoff game last year. 15 little measly points is what he couldn't get. Gave him 14.
Shannon, the best player on the Packers last year was named Aaron, but it wasn't Rodgers, it was Jones. How that team won 13 games still makes me scratch my head. And many of the sports books right now have the over-under on Packers wins this year at 8.5. Do the math. 8.5 is the over-under on a team that won 13 last year. Everybody's saying overrated. Fluky.
Cowboys. What's the over-under on the Cowboys? 9.
I don't care. We're talking about the Packers. That's all we're caring about right now.
But you keep saying his numbers, his touchdown to interception ratio, his completion percentage, his QBR, his yards per attempt was better than Tom Brady. And you said Tom Brady had an outstanding season. If Tom Brady had an outstanding season and Aaron Rodgers' numbers are better than his, record-wise, completion percentage, touchdown to interception, QBR, if Tom Brady had a great season, how did Aaron Rodgers have a worse season with a record and numbers that statistically are better than Tom Brady's? Explain that one, please.
I will. Tom Brady did not have a Devontae Adams, who's a top 5 receiver. Tom Brady last year did not have a Jimmy Graham. He had the worst collections of tight ends in football. He did not have an Aaron Jones. He had Sony Michel lost in Belichick's doghouse, which left him with Rex Burkhead. Really? I mean, Tom had the worst weapons in football and had them in position against the Dolphins in the final regular season game with yet another game-winning fourth-quarter comeback drive to win the 2 seed in the AFC. Sensational against huge odds. And Aaron backed into what they did in the playoffs last year. I'm sorry, he did have Devontae. Don't take that away from him. And he did have Jimmy Graham.
Skip, you keep saying he had him in position for the 2 seed. The loss to Miami didn't knock them out of the playoffs. It gave them the 3rd seed, which gave them a home game, which they won the division. And Tom Brady scored 14 points at home in the first half. Coach Belichick's defense gave up 14 points over 60 minutes, over 4 quarters of football, because the other touchdown that the Titans got, they should have gave up 2, is that Tom Brady hit Logan, I think his name is Logan Ryan, in the chest with a pick 6. So Coach Belichick's defense gave up 14 points. No. He had one right before the half, too, and he dropped it. Your guy scored 14. Let's talk about that. He scored 14 points.
Shannon Sharp, the hottest buzzsaw at the end of the year in pro football last year was the Tennessee Titans. The best team in pro football last year was the Baltimore Ravens. What happened to them in a home playoff game? The Titans happened, just as they happened to New England. So you ran into a hot team that had Kansas City on the ropes for just a little while until the Titans forgot how to tackle Patrick Mahomes.
But New England got the cooler. The GOAT. He the cooler. If you hot on Tom Brady, you play Tom Brady, he cool you right off. Freeze you up, Jenny. Yeah. They call him Antarctica because he can cool off anything that's hot. Now, all of a sudden, he scored 14 points. Well, Coach Belichick's defense gave up a touchdown on the last drive to Ryan Fitzpatrick. What about Tom Brady scoring 14? What about that?
Right now, they're calling him Tampa Bay, and he's going to be hotter than Tampa Bay is in August. Book it.
Aaron Rodgers going to come in off that scotch. He going to come in off that scotch, Jenny, and he going to give him a piece of his mind. So if them eyes a little red and they bug, because you know he got a little bug, he got googly eyes anyway, Jenny. If them things popped a little bit, they red, y'all live for it. Y'all live for it, Green Bay.
No mercy. Former Steelers All-Pro linebacker James Harrison said that head coach Mike Tomlin handed him an envelope after delivering a hard hit on a Browns receiver in 2010. Harrison was initially fined $75,000 for the hit, but it was later reduced to $50,000. Harrison's agent has denied this, and guys, even Steelers president Art Rooney is denying that this ever happened. Shannon, what's your reaction to the story?
Well, hell, it might have been an envelope from the NFL office. Say, here you go. They sent it to me. They got the wrong address. And so I'm just handing it to you. Skip, obviously this is not a good look because the way it's being portrayed is that it was money for a hard hit, which can be construed as a bounty. And Sean Payton talked about this as like, I lost the season for this. And, so it's not a good look for the Steelers, and this is why they're knocking it down. The agent has tried to knock it down. And for me, and James knows better. He knows how this is going to be construed. He knows this, and this was over 10 years ago. So to bring this up and the NFL go back and look at this and might retroactively do something because there's precedent here, Skip. You cannot pay someone outside of their salary to injure, to do something extra that outside of the scope of what you would normally get paid for. And Skip, they did away with bounties because they used to be very prevalent. You cover the NFL long enough, they would put a bounty out on anybody. Buddy Ryan put a bounty out on the kicker for Dallas, Skip. Yeah. And you remember he kicked it off and they like to knock him out of the game. Sure. So it was very prevalent. Even when I came into the league, Skip, they put a bounty on people. And that was the thing, but they've done away with that. And for James to bring that back up now, I don't see a reason or what good could come out of that.
Okay, I hear that, but James. I know James because he's on our show a lot as a contributor.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I like James Harrison. I believe in James Harrison, in his insight into defensive strategy and mentality, and in him telling truth.
Yeah.
I tend to believe this happened. I don't know that it happened, but I don't think James Harrison would just flat out make it up. It's too big a thing just to make up. Now, you can argue about why bring it up now. It does what good, how, why. You got me. Mm-hmm. But remember, he's talked about that hit on Massaquoi on our show before. And he's made the point that's sort of a bittersweetly funny point that if I'd known I was going to get fined $75,000 for that hit, I wouldn't have hit him with about 50% of what I had. He said he was just trying to dislodge the football, wasn't going after him, was not trying to hurt him in any way, shape, or form. He actually said on the podcast that some receivers on other teams had come to him in pregame warmups and said, hey, I'll shoot you a little something if you'll hit me up high instead of down low. The receivers, as you know, Shannon, being one yourself, you were most fearful of your knees, not your head at that point in time. Nobody cared as much about your head as you did about your money makers, your knees. Your knee goes, you might be gone for good. So
that's true.
James is saying, I'm trying to go higher for the sake of the receivers. And he said, on my daddy's grave, I hit Massaquoi with about half of what I had to deliver. I was just trying to dislodge the football on a receiver. It wasn't like hitting a running back in the hole. So he was shocked that he got fined $75, which finally got reduced to $50. But he also said in the podcast that he then had to go talk to the commissioner in New York. And along with him came the GM of the Steelers, Kevin Colbert. And James said he didn't know Kevin Colbert that well. They hadn't spent that much time around each other. And he said he was shocked to find that Kevin Colbert was, to quote James, an assassin, that Kevin Colbert went after the commissioner even harder than James did to defend James in this hit. And that, remember, Mike Tomlin at the time, there was no flag thrown on the hit, so it went unflagged. And Mike Tomlin said right after the game that he believed that was a legal hit. So Kevin Colbert, your GM, Kevin Colbert's fighting hard for you in the commissioner's office. And now the chronological story evolves where now he goes back to Pittsburgh. The fine sticks, and I think it was reduced to 50. And then he said the G-est thing that the Coach Tomlin ever did for him was he comes up and says, here, this is for you. And again, I didn't take that as a bounty. I'm taking it as we tried to fight for you because we thought you were within, that they were just paying the fine. It would have been, I don't know if it'd be the full 50, but maybe it would be half of it. I don't know. But I took it to mean they were paying the fine. Well, as you point out, that's also illegal because it's a salary cap violation. You can't just give players more money than the cap will allow. So that's out of bounds too. It's not as out of bounds as a bounty program. So I'm not seeing bounty. I'm just seeing we believe you were okay. You were inbounds on this hit. So we're going to help you on this one. We're going to pay a portion or all of the fine, whatever it ended up being. And remember, Shannon, the irony of this was, in the end, James and Mike Tomlin fell completely apart. Remember in 2017, I think it was James's third time around in Pittsburgh, and he went back because he said Mike Tomlin promised him he'd play around half the snaps. He said it was between 40 and 60% that he was promised, and he was playing none. Some games he didn't even dress, so he would fake falling asleep in meetings, and then he just, if he wasn't supposed to suit up, he would just go home and watch the game at home on television. And he was trying to act his way out of Pittsburgh, which finally happened. So he doesn't have a lot of good things to say about Mike Tomlin, which is why he said the G-est thing that Mike ever did for me was way back in 2010. So I tend to believe it. Yesterday, Sean Payton said, the NFL's not going to do anything about this. He said, don't hold your breath. They'll sweep it under the carpet. It happened so long ago. I think they'll just look the other way. Obviously, Art Rooney said that I am very certain nothing like this ever happened. Well, okay. I don't know. I'm just going to stand my ground here to say I do believe in James, and I don't believe he would lie about something like that.
Skip, I think the thing that will happen is that when you're telling a story, and I do believe James could have decapitated him because if you look at it, Skip, he was just standing there. If he'd have had a running start and put his helmet under Massaqua's chin, it should have been over for sure. So he just hit it with his shoulder. But because James has such a low center of gravity, Skip, he's a big man, but he's short. So even when Massacua was ducking, because he saw him at the last second, he still couldn't get up under the blow. And so James, and it kind of evolved from there, Skip. And so I understand, he gave me, and like you said, it could have been like, look, we fought for you. And that was the thing, Skip. If they go fight for you, even if it doesn't, at least you fought for me, bro, we good. At least I know I got you in my corner. I'm not going to put you in harm's way now, Skip. That's like you. You fought for your boy to get me on Undisputed. I can't put you on blast at no point in time ever. You fought for me, bro. We good. Well, no matter what transpired, we good. Skip Bayless, my dog. James, you got no matter what transpired between you and Mike Tomlin, at least at one point, they fought for you. And remember, they gave you opportunity after opportunity. Now, you cashed in on that, being an all-pro, being defensive player of the year. But nah, you can't turn your back on them and put them in a situation now. I don't know, Skip. Maybe Roger Goodell called him and said, hey, all right, come here, let me talk to you. We ain't never gonna happen, but do you believe that happened? Nah, Roger. Now, we're a stand-up organization. We would never do anything. That's what I figured. Okay, get on up out of here. But James put the Steelers in a very uncomfortable situation. He put Mike Tomlin in a very uncomfortable situation. And when they come back, Skip, they're going to ask him about this. Now, this might have happened 10 years ago, and then by the time the media get an opportunity to talk to Mike Tomlin, it might be 10 weeks. But they're going to ask him about this.
They will. So, look, in the end, do I believe it happened? I do. I don't know that. It's just my gut feeling knowing James. But it was wrong for him to bring it up because it does no good for anybody. And as you say, it unfortunately puts everybody in a tough spot.
No mercy.
Time for our trending story of the day, sponsored by Kia's tough and ready lineup of all-wheel drive SUVs. Give it everything. Well, the final 2 episodes of Michael Jordan's documentary, The Last Dance, air this Sunday. I do not want this to end, but Shannon, what do you want to see from both episodes 9 and 10? Oh, come on, what do you want to see?
Maybe a bonus track about the Washington days. You know, those 2 years in Washington happened, right, Jenny? I mean, because he did bring Scottie Pippen. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Skip, was he on the roster in 94? So I'm trying to figure how does anything from 1994 season, how does that make The Last Dance? Only to make Scottie Pippen look bad because he wouldn't go in and take the final, and pass the ball in to Tony Kukoc to take the last shot. How does that make The Last Dance? What they got to do with Mike? Mike wasn't even there. Mike was in Birmingham. But somehow that made it. So I just want to see some of the old bonus track. See what it was like in Washington and D.C. Because they were very happy to go see him play. No, Skip, I think in all honesty, all seriousness, all jokes aside, I don't really know what I'm looking for, Skip. I want to know how he's, obviously the last shot's going to be in there, but I just want to know. So we've seen, the maturation of Mike, and we've seen the behind the scenes of how he got guys motivated. Skip said it was just motivation. It was harsh motivation. It could be construed as bullying. All that aside, I don't really know where it's going to go now, Skip. I really don't. Other than the last shot, which that's your favorite moment in sports history, because you purchased that photo to see Michael Jordan hold that pose. You probably got him to sign it too. I bet you did. I bet you got him to sign it. You think you're slick, Skip Bayless. But
I did not.
Oh, you didn't get it?
No.
So, Skip, I really don't, honestly, in all honesty, Skip, I do not have any idea what these last 2 episodes is going to encapsulate. Because basically you got 2 hours and basically it's the final shot. So I don't know where we're going from here.
Okay. To your first point, semi-serious. Yes, he did come back after 3 years off. The last 3 years of his prime, ages 35, 36, and 37. He did not play basketball. Why? I don't know. That's what I'd like to hear. But he did come back. This is The Last Dance. This is about the 1998 season, the final one in Chicago. But 4 years later, he came back at age 38 and 39 to Washington. He played okay. He wasn't in the best shape. He did smoke too many cigars at that point. He averaged 23 and 6 the first year and 20 and 6 the second year. It wasn't pathetic, but it wasn't pretty.
No,
the point is,
he had moments.
He had his moments here and there, but whatever. This is about 98. This is about how it ended and why it ended. And again, I was there in 98 as the columnist of the Chicago Tribune. And what was often perplexing to me was Michael spoke a lot to the media without really speaking. He was the master of the cliche, and he could say a whole lot without saying much of anything, unless you really backed him into a corner with a pointed question, as I did about, Michael, Phil keeps saying that it's a done deal. You're just going to quit when he has to walk out the back door. And Michael said, that's Phil's opinion. That's when I had some hope. Okay, maybe Michael isn't going to just go with Phil out the back door. But the point is, he's rarely spoken his heart on what really happened. So, Shannon, I'm hoping that we get to see that guy who's now kicked back in that easy chair in these interviews. He's got a cigar and he's got a little something in his glass, and they keep filling it.
Yeah. And
I want him to, so to speak, let his hair down. I know he doesn't have a whole lot of hair left, but whatever's up there, let it down. Let us see what's inside you. Let us hear on the basketball court what happened in what's called the flu game, the classic flu game at Utah in the 97 finals. Let us hear what was in your heart, soul, mind against the Pacers. Shannon, I was there. I covered all 7 of those games in the conference finals in 98. It was a hellacious contest between a team coached by Larry Bird, who was the coach of the year in the NBA that year. And the star was, as you know, Reggie Miller, but it was deep in talent and firepower. Rick Smits, the 2 Davises, obviously Chris Mullen, Jalen Rose, Travis Best, Mark Jackson. It was a loaded basketball team that caused Michael and company a whole lot of problems. The home team won all 7 games of that series, including the Bulls winning Game 7, 88-83 at home. It was knockdown, drag out. Reggie says that the Pacers we see the previews for what's coming up in episode 9. Reggie says that the Pacers were just better than the Bulls. He might have been right about that, except for that one guy on the Bulls. And then we come to the last shot game at Utah. And I've told you, Scotty was sick before the game, and then he wrenched his back on an early wide open dunk, and he was virtually useless the rest of the game, scored 8 points. In that game, Michael scored 45, while the whole rest of the team scored 42. So what's going on in his head during that game? Because they were pretty sure they wouldn't have Scotty for a potential Game 7 at Utah. So is Michael saying it's do or die now? I have to make this shot on Brian Russell. I got to go steal the ball first from Karl Malone. I got to close the deal now because we might not be able to close it in Game 7. I want to hear that. And finally, as we talked about to start the show, Shannon, I want to hear, does he have any regrets for not going to Jerry Reinsdorf and saying, hey, let's make a deal. Let's compromise here.
Yeah.
I'll stay.
Yeah.
I know Phil and Jerry do not invite him anymore. The bridge is burned. I get it. They can't coexist anymore. So give me a made man. Give me Doug Collins back as my coach next year. Don't give me Tim Floyd. Jerry Krause had fallen in love with Tim Floyd. He's a nice guy. I got to know Tim very well the next year. But Tim was a rising college basketball coach. He'd done really well at New Orleans. And then at Iowa State, they'd gone to 3 straight NCAAs. He was a fine young coach who then was a disaster the next 3 years without Michael and got fired in the 4th year. So the point was, if Michael said, give me somebody with some NBA experience who I could respect, I'll come back for 2 more years. Well, I want to know, will Michael talk about that in episode 10 on Sunday night?
Yeah.
I want to know. I want to hear it from the goat's mouth. What happened? Why did it happen?
Yeah, you're right, Skip. That would be very interesting if he would reflect back and say, you know what? One of my biggest regrets is that I did not go talk to Jerry Reinsdorf, and I did not get him to try to change his mind on bringing Phil back. Skip, look, it's hard for me to believe, but Jerry Reinsdorf and Phil Jackson, they don't have to communicate. They're not communicating about game plans. Your office is in one corner, mine's in the other, and so we don't have to get along. Just, hey, you get the players and do what contract, all that stuff. Let Phil work with the team. You guys stay out of each other's hair. So that's the way it's going to be. So, yeah, it would be very interesting if he's going to be that reflective. But I don't know if Michael is the guy that says, I have any regrets about anything that I've done in my career, especially basketball-wise. Skip. Now, well, yeah, so that was the thing. That would be something that I would like to hear. Does he like, man, what could have been? Like I said, Skip, I believe Jerry Reinsdorf should have allowed someone outside of the organization crumbling from within to tear this thing down. If the Pacers, if the Knicks, or somebody, Utah, or whomever beat them, San Antonio, if somebody beats them, I got no problem with that. But don't you mess it up.
No.
So that's going to be interesting. I forgot about the flu game.
Yeah, and also remember this. I think it was like episode 1, Jerry Reinsdorf's on camera for the documentary saying, Jerry Krause told me that in '98 the team had gotten too old. So Krause had convinced Reinsdorf, who also owned the White Sox and didn't have that much focus on the Bulls. He just let Jerry Krause run that basketball operation. But the point is, Jerry Krause convinced Jerry Reinsdorf that the team was too old so Jerry Krause could start it over and show that he could win without Michael Jordan. Baloney. Shannon, look at the ages of the players. It was not too old. Scotty was 32. Rodman was 36, but he was a below-the-rim rebounder. He still had basketball left in him. Ron Harper went and won 2 more rings as a starter for the Lakers. And then we go all the way down the roster. Tony Kukoc was 29. He was 6th man of the year. That team could have come back for 2 more years. I believe it would have been favored to win the next 2 championships. I believe it would have. Who knows if it would? I don't know. Would they have gotten hurt? Would they have broken down? Would Michael have run out of sort of psychological gas? Maybe, but I still believe that team was positioned to win 2 more championships.
Or at least get to the finals. You like them? You like them over San Antonio? Because San Antonio had a young
San Antonio team.
David.
I know. And David, I got it.
Skip, Skip, I forgot about the flu game. I think the thing is, Skip, when we look at Mike, he has such iconic moments. You know, he had the flu game. He had the last shot in '98. He had the acrobatic layup in his first NBA Finals against the... So he has moments that you will never, ever forget because you will remember where you were. Because you remember Scotty helping him off the court and he's sitting down, and as soon as he sits down, he plops down, Skip. You remember that. You remember him holding this. You remember him having the ball, tongue out, got the ball in his right hand, then all of a sudden he said, nah, I ain't gonna do that. I'm gonna do this. So you remember that. It's just that the moments are so iconic that you will never forget because, you know, even though he was great all the time and he had some moves that you skip. He started on one side of the basket and 3 people are around him and somehow he lays the ball up and gets fouled. He has moments, but it's moments in those games that you will never, ever forget.
You know, it sounds like you're making the case he was the GOAT and is the GOAT.
Oh, my goodness. See, there you go, Skip. There you go. Skip. Why you do this? I give the man some credit. I give the man credit. I done spent probably $100,000 on Jordan shoes. And you got people out here convinced that I need y'all to pay me all my money back so I can really hate on Jordan. I need all my money back for these Jordans I got. That's what I need you guys to do, especially you.
No mercy. All right, guys, let's get back to talking some football because Pro Football Focus released their all-decade team, top 101 players. Topping the list was Tom Brady, followed by Aaron Donald and Drew Brees to round out the top 3. The next quarterback on the list was Shannon's guy, Aaron Rodgers, down at number 6. Shannon, you got a problem with this, or do you agree?
Yeah, I got a big problem. Big problem. I don't see a scenario in which Drew Brees should be ranked ahead of Aaron Rodgers. Skip, if you look at it, Aaron Rodgers has a Super Bowl MVP, and 2 regular season MVP in this decade. Drew Brees does not. Skip, playoffs. Drew Brees is 4-6. Aaron Rodgers is 10-7. Drew Brees has 21 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Aaron Rodgers is 36-11. And if you look at the championship games they lost, Skip, 2019, they gave up 37 points to the 49ers. 2016, 44 to the Falcons. And we know what happened in overtime against Seattle. They failed to field an onside kick. So if I just look at it, and I understand that Drew Brees has the numbers, Skip, but he's thrown the ball over 1,000 more times than Aaron Rodgers did in this decade. And the 7 to 9 Pro Bowl appearances, Aaron Rodgers missed a half of 2 seasons. But if you look at what they accomplished, Rodgers has 6 division titles. Brees has 4. You look at the Super Bowl appearance. You look at NFC Championship game appearances. That's 4-1 in Rodgers' favor. So I'm surprised that Drew Brees is so much higher than Aaron Rodgers. Another one that I thought was like, but then when you look at it, Skip, J.J. Watt. I think what happened to J.J., Skip, is that he started off like gangbusters. But if you look at over the last 3 or 4 years, Skip, he's kind of like been nicked. He's missed a substantial amount of time. And I think Aaron Donald has passed him. So I was a little surprised. Would I have been disappointed if J.J. Watt would have been a little higher? No. But I understand what they took into account because the last 3 or 4 years, Skip, he's missed a lot of time with injury. But the biggest problem that I have is with Aaron Rodgers being way below Drew Brees.
Wait a second. You just missed the elephant in our living room here.
Ain't no elephant in no living room.
Tom Brady is number 1 on this list. Your man, Aaron Rodgers, is 6th. You have repeatedly told me the greatest thrower of the football, the greatest ever, is Aaron bleepin' Rodgers. You have told me he is transcendent, that he is consistently, he has been better than Tom Brady. So why didn't you go to the top of the list and say Aaron Rodgers should not just be above Drew Brees, he should be above Tom Brady. You did not say that because I don't think you really believe that.
Skip, in this decade, Brady has been to 5 Super Bowls. He's won 3. His numbers speak for itself. They've won, if I'm not mistaken, they've won the division every single year. Skip, Tom Brady deserved to be the quarterback in this decade. That was not I made my point. The problem that I have is Drew Brees at 3 and Aaron Rodgers at 6. I believe that should be reversed. I stand by that. So you try to bring something. We're not talking about Tom Brady. See, you always try to get Brady to this argument.
He's number 1.
We're not. Okay,
I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to deflect. America, Shannon Sharp just admitted that Tom Brady is better than Aaron Rodgers. It's over. He has lost the basketball GOAT argument and the football GOAT argument in the same week. It's over for LeBron James, and it's over for Aaron bleepin' Rodgers. If I might, could I read just a couple of lines from the capsule on Pro Football Focus on Tom Brady, ranked number 1? He has the highest single season grade Pro Football has ever given a quarterback. That was back in 2016. That's not that long ago. He has the greatest 4-year stretch Pro Football Focus has ever graded. That was from 2015 to 2018. That's not that long ago. And Pro Football Focus says Tom Brady defines clutch. I've been trying to tell you that for 4 years. In the fourth quarter and overtime, he still has the highest Pro Football Focus grade of the decade. And beyond that, as great as he's been in the clutch, he's been doing it without making many mistakes. That's what truly makes him special, says Pro Football Focus. I know this stat's going to be hard to swallow, to sort of let it compute, but think about this. Tom Brady in the decade had, by grade, only 124 what are called turnover-worthy plays. That's out of 6,151. That's 2% of his plays in the decade were termed by Pro Football Focus turnover-worthy. That's outrageously low. That's by far the best. That's why he is the unquestioned GOAT of the National Football League, which brings me to 6th-ranked Aaron Rodgers. It makes the point, Shannon, and I'll give you this. Late 2010 and all of 2011, Aaron Rodgers was sensational. He made a case for about a year and a half that he was the GOAT. But that was a long time ago. And that was the end of Aaron Rodgers as you knew and loved him. And Pro Football Focus concludes in its capsule on Aaron Rodgers, what holds him back from the very top of this list is that he just couldn't sustain that level. And over the past few seasons has sunk deeper and deeper into a rut of some bad habits. That's Pro Football Focus. That's not me. So they are validating what I've told you. He's been in decline over the last 3 seasons. Lots of bad habits. They grade him lower and lower on Pro Football Focus. Well, you better ask something smart because I think you're in trouble.
No, I'm not in trouble. I'm glad that Pro Football Focus put this out, but they just didn't start playing quarterback in 2015 through 2018. So it'd be very interesting to see if they were to grade some of Peyton Manning years, some of Dan Marino years, and so we could see if those are, how comparable are they to Tom Brady's season.
They did.
Second of all, Skip.
No, they did.
No, I'm just saying, in the decade, who turned the ball over? Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers? In the decade of the 2010s, it's a simple question. Yes, interceptions. Who had more interceptions? Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers? It was a simple question. It wasn't a statement. It was a question.
Okay, I got a simple answer. They have a chart on Pro Football Focus. You can look it up. Over the decade, Tom Brady had by far the fewest turnover-worthy plays. Aaron Rodgers, to your point, was second on that list. But by far the fewest was Tom Brady.
No, ain't no turnover-worthy plays. I'm talking about turnovers. I'm not talking about smelling the donut. I'm talking about eating the donut. Now, which guy ate the donut? Not smelled the donut, Skip Bayless. Which guy turned it over the most?
sometimes you throw one to the other team and the other team drops the interception. That happened more often than not.
No, Skip.
Yeah.
Skip, I just want to know one thing, Skip. Did you eat or didn't you eat? I mean, man, you know what? I wanted to make me a steak last night with some baked potatoes and yada, yada, yada. Did you eat? What did you eat, Skip, baby? You keep telling me sometimes you throw it to the guy and he drops it. Did he have more interceptions than Aaron Rodgers? A simple no or a simple... Your Aunt Jenny, can I treat the witness as a hostile witness? Make him answer the question.
Tom Brady had the fewest turnover-worthy plays, said Pro Football Focus. This is their list, and they ranked Aaron Rodgers 6th because his play fell off after 2010/11. Case closed. End of argument. Game over.
Hold on, if I'm not mistaken, so he fell off so much that he won the MVP in 2014? Damn.
Okay, but the last 3 years, that counts in this decade.
Yeah. But they said his play fell off after 2010 and 2011. But yet he won the MVP in 2014. So how much did it fall off?
Well, a lot the last 3 years. In fact, it fell off so much they decided to penalize him all the way down to 6th on the list. And they admitted what holds him back from being at the very top of the list is he just couldn't sustain. Shannon, you're clinging to the past. You're holding on to what used to be, and screaming before your very eyes is the fact that Aaron Rodgers has not been very good over the last 3 years. And even last year, he was 18th in QBR and 23rd in completion percentage. That won't fly. That's not going to make you number one in the decade.
Skip, but if you look at it like that, that's like saying Usain Bolt fell off. Okay, because he doesn't run 9.58 and he won the Olympics with a 9.80, you was like, well, he fell off. He's not the same. But no, he's not. He's still winning. Skip, when you compare it to that, when you compare it to those historically great seasons, the likelihood of somebody going 40, 45, and 6. Skip, come on now. Well, if that's the case, Tom Brady fell off because he's never had another season in which he went 50-8. So he fell off. If you hold Patrick Mahomes to that mythical season, 5,000, 50 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, if you judge him by that, you're going to say he fell off. If you judge Peyton Manning by 55 and 10, and he doesn't have 5,400 yards, yeah, he fell off. Skip, come on. He still had better numbers last year than Tom Brady, and he fell off, and Tom Brady's still playing at a high clip. I can't understand that. I just don't know how. A guy has more touchdowns, fewer interceptions, a better completion percentage, a better QBR, better yards per attempt. He fell off, but the guy that he had better numbers than is still falling on. I'm confused. That's all I'm saying.
So I ask you one last simple question. It requires a simple yes or a simple no. Should Aaron Rodgers be ranked above Tom Brady at number 1 on this list? Shannon Sharp. Simple yes or no? No.
Due to my attorney has informed me I have the right to the Fifth Amendment protection, so I use my right to the Fifth Amendment.
Got it. Yep. Game over. Case closed.
No mercy.
The Rams' new logo and now new uniforms have been met with some public backlash. Some of that coming from Rams legend and friend of the show, Eric Dickerson, who joins us now. Eric, it is so good to have you. We have missed you around here on Undisputed.
Good morning. Okay. I miss all you guys, too.
We're so glad to have you with us. But I got to ask, ED, you've been a little critical of the new logo, of the uniforms. Tell us why.
Well, first of all, they called and asked our opinion. They called and, wanted to get our opinion on what we thought of the logo first. And we looked at that. And they said, be honest. And I just told them what I thought of the logo. I mean, I didn't think the logo was indicative of the Los Angeles Rams. And then a couple of days ago, they wanted us to look at the uniforms. And with the same thing. And look, the uniforms are what the uniforms are. But let's go back to the history of the Rams. The Rams were the first team to have a logo, the horn on their helmet. And the Rams came to LA in 1946. They were the first team in Los Angeles before the Dodgers and the Lakers. And I think that horn is just so iconic with the football team. I mean, our uniforms, you think about Deacon Jones, you think about the Fearsome Foursome, you think about Jack Youngblood, Jackie Slater, all the great players we had. And it's almost you're taking away the history, of the Los Angeles Rams. And look, I understand that if they want to change the colors, I like the colors. I do like the colors. But I think the main thing, I just asked them, why would you touch the horn? I mean, why would you touch the horn? And then you asked us after the fact, and I got to get Marshall Falk was on the call, and Marshall said, he's got to ask the question, he said, like anything, any business, if someone wants to take credit, who do we look to, who do we blame for this? And there was a guy on the call, he said, well, I guess you blame me, in a sense. He said, so who did you talk? You talked to former players, current players, about the logo and the uniform? Did you talk to anybody? He said, no, well, we talked to people in the office. We talked to women, which is fine, in the office, but we didn't talk to any players. I'm like, to me, that didn't make sense. Why ask us after the fact? I mean, look, I love my football team. And Skip, I want to thank you for giving me the name, the ambassador, because I love it. I stick up for that name. I take it for my fans. I try to do, the fans want to hear. I mean, look, our fans are passionate about their football team, their logo. I would ask you, Skip, this is for you. What if the Cowboys took the star off the Dallas Cowboy helmet? And so please put Cowboys on there.
So, Eric, I did give you that nickname because you do live and die for your Rams. So I must admit, when I read your remarks from your radio interview yesterday, I was shocked that you publicly condemned these uniforms. But I did not know that they had sought your approval. Well, but they'd already decided that it's all out of order, that you didn't really get any input. They'd already decided this is the way it's going to be. So I was shocked at how critical you were because you still work with and for the team, and yet you weren't really consulted before they released the new uniform. So now I have sympathy for you, and I'm on your side. At first, I was shocked that you were hypercritical of this, but they didn't really ask your opinion until it was too late, right?
Exactly. I asked them when they showed them to us. I said, okay, can they change them? If we don't like them, they said, no, we're not changing them. I'm like, well, why ask us? It's just the purpose to ask it. If they would have asked me, this is what I would have said. Let's make this fun. Let's do this for LA. Let's bring in some of the great artists that we have in Los Angeles. And let's have a contest. Let's take the top 50. And let's go down to the top 30, the top 20, the top 10, the top 5, and the top 2 and top 1. Let's say take those artists and say, we're going to let you pick our logo. We're going to work with you to pick our logo, and we're going to give you, say, $50,000 in season tickets for life. That would have been over so great in LA with our fans. I mean, because that way the fans were in it. I mean, and you talk to the fans, they said their thing is, we like the colors, but why mess with the horn? I mean, it doesn't look like and I told the guy on the phone, I said, this doesn't look like a horn anymore. I mean, and it's not my time. It's my time in the past, and all the players that wore that horn, it passed. It's Aaron Donald's time. It's Jalen Ramsey's times. It's Robert Woods' times. It's their time. But I still think that horn was iconic. It's an iconic piece of the Los Angeles Rams football team, and now we've lost that.
Edie, I'm not gonna lie. I do like the colors, and so I need you to get me an Aaron Donald jersey autograph. I appreciate that. So the problem that you have is that they tinker with the horn because it looked like they broke the horn. It's not a single horn. It's like 2 half horns that's not connected. So if they would have just left the horn intact, bring new colors, brighter colors, you would have been okay with that. You just have a problem with the horn being a half horn, not a complete horn.
100%, Shannon. You said it. That's my problem. And I think that's the problem with all the fans. The colors I like. I do like. I like the bone. I like colors. On the shoulder a little bit wider. The ram curve a little bit wider. But that's not my call. But the horn on the helmet, why mess with that? I just feel like that's a no-no. That was my main issue. And Skip, you said it. They didn't ask us. Let's work together. It was after the fact. You see it. I say, okay, so can they change it? No, we're not changing. Okay, so do we stop?
Well, they should have never. They shouldn't even ask you then.
Don't even ask me. Pretty much everybody on that call, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, Marshall Falk, all the guys felt pretty much the same. The horn. Why mess with the horn?
Man. So, Eric, while we have you, you did bring up my Cowboys. We haven't been able to get your opinion of how the Dak contract stalemate will play out. How do you see it ending? Good or bad?
Well, I'll say this much here. I like Jerry Jones, and I respect the Cowboys, even though I'm not a Cowboy fan. And I just feel like that when you hear the offer, and you don't know all the details of the offer's a good offer. I mean, it's a great offer, matter of fact, from a guy who was, a 4th-round draft pick. And I'm not saying that because I like Dak. I think Dak can be a great quarterback. But I think that offer is a great offer. And the thing is, Skip, he plays for the Dallas Cowboys. You're going to make so much more money off the field. It's like look at Tony Romo. Tony makes $18 million a year, after football. So think about, are you going to argue over another? And I'm not saying it's not my money, $5 or $10 million, but Jerry's that kind of owner. Like, okay, I made you a fair offer, very fair, and if you don't want to take it, we'll just step back. And if they would just say, look, we're going to go with Andy Dalton, we're going to save $15 million, and we'll put that money somewhere on our defense and help our team, you're playing with fire because, I mean, being a Cowboy, and I hate to say this, Skip, I do, being a Cowboy has a great, great value. It really does. And being in Dallas and being the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys.
Easy, you of all people should know, after having held out twice, living in L.A., you wanted to raise because you felt you wanted what you deserved. They thought they were giving you fair market value. You said, I want more money. You were living in L.A., and you end up going to Indy, and you going to talk about this man got fair offer paying in Dallas.
Well, let's go with this. I was making $250,000. When I went to Indy, I made $1.5 million.
That was a lot of money back then.
$250,000 money in LA. Look, I mean, like I said, I'm always for the player. You know that. I'm always for the player. And I don't tell the player, what to do with his money, how to spend his money. But you got to, you know it's true, Shannon. Think about it. Being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys or being the quarterback of the New York Jets or the Cincinnati Bengals, that's a big difference. It really is. And we know that. And like I said, I like that. I'm not telling the man what to do, but if I was advising him, I said, look at this offer very close and think about this. Because Jerry could say, you know what? That's it. That's our offer. Take it or leave it. And that's how he does it. And his son, Stephen Jones, can say, Dad, that's a great offer. That's enough. And we're just going to leave it at that. We'll just let him go be Kirk Cousins in Minnesota, be another Kirk Cousins, Minnesota Vikings. And I like that.
So Shannon Sharp, you realize that time that you're talking about, Eric Dickerson had established himself as the best running back in all of pro football. He was dominating the league, and he was a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer by the time that he was at his contractual stalemate with his team. So that's a whole different situation than a still young quarterback who is 1-2 in the playoffs. Nobody considers Dak Prescott even a top 10 quarterback yet. Maybe he'll come to prove that at some point. But again, as Eric says, the offer on the table of $36 million a year with maybe $110 million guaranteed is more than fair.
But ED understands. ED having played and understands contract. Contracts is not what they're written to be. How much of that money is fully guaranteed? That not injury protection, not if I'm on the roster at the start of the new year, because we've seen them at the start of the new year start cutting players. Ask Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley had all that money guaranteed. Where Todd Gurley at? He in Atlanta. You see what happened to Leonard Floyd in Chicago. I'm not talking about money for the new year, Skip. I'm talking about money that's fully guaranteed. When I sign my name, how much money am I getting? ED knows how that works. It's basically, the money that I'm going to get, no matter come hell or high water, I'm going to be able to put that money in my pocket. And I think it's $35 million and we're going to, it's guaranteed. How much is fully guaranteed? Because Aaron Rodgers got about $79 million and Russell Wilson got about $70 million. How much of that is fully guaranteed?
Okay, Eric Dickerson, while we still have you, let's go one last direction. You have called Tom Brady here on Undisputed an old-ass man. The old-ass man is now a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. You have not been able to weigh in here on the show. How will Tom Brady's Buccaneers do next year?
Well, with Tom Brady, you always have a chance. Don't get me wrong. And I like the coach Bruce Arians, but, can he play in that offense? Can he push the ball down the field? With Bruce Arians' offense, you need a little bit more time. Tom Brady's 42 years old. Let's don't forget that. I mean, he is Tom Brady, but he's 42 years old. These guys are young. Can he withstand those hits? Can he extend the play? Tom Brady's not known for that. He's known for having that leisure to sit back in the pocket. Me personally, I think the Bucs will do okay. I mean, they have some weapons over there for sure. The offensive line is pretty good. I'm not sure that the running back position is solid, but, he's Tom Brady, and he has Gronk there with him also. Gronk, I think, will come in mostly on third downs and red zone situations because they're pretty good at tight end, but, he's Tom Brady. I can't, every time I count him out, you throw an egg in my face, dude.
But that's kind of like LeBron James. Wherever he goes, they got a chance. You think championship. Anytime LeBron goes somewhere, he went back to Cleveland, you thought championship. He goes to Miami, you thought championship. Now at Lakers, you're thinking championship. That's the way he can swing the pendulum of power. But here's the thing, Edie, and I agree with you, and this is what I've been telling Skip. If you look at Bruce Arians' offense, they're about pushing the ball down the field. Can he get Tom Brady to hold the ball longer than he normally is and take an unnecessary risk that Tom really never took in his previous offense? Because if you look at Jameis, they put Jameis in a lot of situations. Now, Jameis is really reckless with the football, but they ask him to do things that in order for you to be successful long term, you can't put the ball in harm's way like Bruce Arians wants you to.
I agree.
All I know is Tom Brady is going to go 12-4 next year, and you guys are going to have to eat a lot of undisputed fried crow.
I disagree.
Well, Skip, you do know now, I can't imagine. The Super Bowl is in Tampa. If Tampa's in the Super Bowl, I know good and well we're going to take our butt down to Tampa. Man, I can't live with you. I can't. No, that can't happen. No.
So, Eric Dickerson,
it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to have you on. We can't wait to get you back in the studio. We hope to be back in the studio soon, and it will be much easier for me to school both you and Shannon face to face than by Zoom, as we're trying to do right now.
Well, thanks, Skip. Looking forward to seeing you. I know you can see that Ram in the back, right? That's that Ram helmet in the back right there. The original Ram helmet. You look at it.
Got it.
I love that helmet. Hey,
yeah, with those bananas.
I have to say, Edie, you definitely have the best backdrop. I'm sorry, you win. What a setup there. So good to have you on the show. We will see you back, hopefully, in studio soon. No mercy. Well, Kendrick Perkins is siding with LeBron in the GOAT debate. Perk tweeted a side-by-side comparison of LeBron having averaged more points, rebounds, assists, and a higher shooting percentage in his last 3 finals losses than Jordan had in his last 3 finals wins. So, Shannon, does this prove LeBron is the GOAT?
I think, and I love Perk, and I think Perk does a great job of highlighting kind of like what I try to do. But I think the thing is, Jenny, people are dug in. And they've chosen a side, and they're not moving off that side. So these are very compelling numbers. When you look at it, he's averaging 3 more points, 3.5 more points, 5 more rebounds, 5 more assists, and shoot a higher percentage. And he's losing these games. But I forget the thing I was looking at the other day. The 2015, 16, and 17 are ranked the highest opponents that either Michael or LeBron could have possibly played. 5 of the top 7 that Mike, when they graded the teams, the teams that Michael played and the teams that LeBron played, LeBron had 5 of the 7. Now, mind you, the 2018, the second year that Kevin Durant there, they didn't even make it. Now, we know what Kevin Durant represents. That team did not even make it. Let that sink in for just a second. So, in other words, LeBron James in finals competition has faced tougher opponents than one Michael Jordan. Now, Skip, he loved all these stats and facts that he loved to point out. I'm just pointing out stats and facts of what these articles said. That LeBron James competition in finals have been tougher than Michael Jordan's in finals. I mean, I don't really know what else you can ask a man to do. A man averages 35, basically 11 and 10, and he's losing. I don't really know what you can ask a man to do, Skip. I really don't.
The article in question was on the website 538. That's what you read.
Oh, yeah,
the overall premise of that analysis, correct. The overall premise was Michael Jordan's playoff opponents were tougher than LeBron's playoff opponents. That's because in Michael's day, the East was the beast. And in LeBron's day, the East was the least. So he had just easy pass. He had super highways to the finals. I will give you that Golden State was the toughest finals opponent either LeBron or Michael ever had to contend with. I give you that. But remember,
Spurs.
Remember, LeBron had his biggest meltdown against the Dallas Mavericks, who were ranked by 538, the easiest finals opponent either LeBron or Michael ever played. The 2011 Mavericks, correct. Easiest finals opponent, and the chosen one became the frozen one in that series. Michael never melted down in any series of any round of the playoffs. So now let's go back to Kendrick's idea, his panel that he put up on his Twitter. It's so misleading because it's a bunch of phony baloney. Here's what's not included in those numbers. And Kendrick, it was a nice try, but you failed again to make LeBron the GOAT. He's the phony GOAT, rated PG phony GOAT. And here's why. In the final Bulls three-peat, they played Seattle, Utah, and Utah. The games were played much more physically then, and the scores were far lower than the LeBron Golden State scores. So there are far more points to be scored against Golden State because it's more run and gun. Against Seattle and Utah, here are the average scores of those finals. Against Utah, it was 93 to 89 was the average score. The first Utah series, the average final was 88 to 87. Then in the three-peat finals against Utah, the average was 88 to 80. So all the scores are down in the 80s. But guess what? So the average score of those three-peat finals for Michael, the second three-peat, was 90 to 86. He scored 35% of the 90 points. Now you look at LeBron against Golden State. The average score of all three of those finals was 112 to 103. Many more points scored by both sides. LeBron scored 34% of those points. So Michael, 35% of his three-peat points, and they won. And LeBron, 34% of more points to be scored, and they lost. They lost in 6, then in 5, and then in 4. They got swept.
But Skip, but this is what I don't understand. Why you never make that now with Tom Brady, that they don't attack the quarterback. The wide receivers have more freedom. They throw the ball more. No. I just want to know because all you do is talk about the pace, the style of pace. LeBron, they're getting up more shots. So this is why his numbers. But you never do that for Brady. You don't say they don't attack the quarterback like they did in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. You don't say they cut and grab the receivers. That the receivers, they're the defensive receiver, and they call. You don't make that argument. All you do is highlight what Tom Brady is doing. But every time I give you numbers about LeBron, you try to highlight why he's doing it. You won't just give him credit and say, man, this guy's great. He played unbelievable. You always try to find a caveat. You try to find reasons to why.
Again, our audience is hip to Shannon Sharp. They get it that when he's losing an argument, he always has to change the subject. So all of a sudden, I have you on the run with some cold, hard facts, and you say, what about Tom Brady? This isn't about Tom Brady. This is about Kendrick Perkins trying to make a weak case, a lame case, that LeBron is better than Michael because of some bogus stats. Misleading, misanalyzed.
So what, man? So I want to make sure I'm hearing you correct. So in other words, LeBron James is really not scoring 35 points, right? So is it 35 or is it not 35? Is it 12 assists or not? Is it 10 rebounds or not? I just need to know. Is it that? Yes or no?
Okay, look, I gave you that. Scores higher, he's scoring more points. I also gave you this. If you remember, I've said this many times on Undisputed. In 2015, the greatest 3 games LeBron has ever played in his playoff life, games 1, 2, and 3 of the 2015, the first finals against Golden State, before they had Kevin Durant. LeBron had lost Kevin Love before the finals started. He lost Kyrie in overtime of game 1. And what did he do? He put that team on his back and carried them to a 2-1 lead with game 4 in his house in Cleveland. If you win that game, I'm going to be backed into a corner because you're going to be on your way to the greatest feat of your career. You by yourself are on the way to beating Golden State with Steph and Clay and Draymond and Iggy, for that matter. And what happened in game 4? LeBron spit the bit or swallowed the bit.
Nah.
He came up small in his own house. He shot 7 for 22 that game. He went 5 of 10 from the free throw line, and he disappeared. And everybody told me back on First Take, oh, he just ran out of gas. Baloney. He's the fittest athlete in sports. That's all I ever hear.
Well, but Michael Jordan said he was running out of gas at the last three-peat. But you didn't say nothing about that. You didn't say anything. Michael said that.
He won.
That's what Michael said.
He won.
He
won every one of them.
That's why he took time. That's why he took time off. He was running out of gas. That's what he said. I didn't say it. Call him and tell him, say, Mike, you shouldn't have said that. So now he ran out of gas.
Shannon.
He took a year and a half off. Did it happen, Skip? Yes Shannon. Or no? Did it happen?
And I want you to know that I'm not saying that Seattle or Utah in the last three-peat were Golden State, but they were really good basketball teams because Seattle that year had the second best record to the Bulls in 96 when the Bulls were sensational. Yeah. They went 72-10. And Seattle won 64 games and were second best and first best, obviously, in the West. And then Utah was the second best record in 97. And then Utah tied the Bulls in 98 for the first best record. So don't tell me they weren't quality opponents. There was nothing underdoggy about either of those teams. They were really tough-minded, very good, well-coached basketball teams.
Skip, if you don't mind me asking, the Blazers, how many Hall of Famers did they have on the Blazers? How many did they have on Seattle? And how many did they have on Utah? You don't mind me asking. Clyde Drexler, 1. Seattle, Gary Payton, 1. Utah, 2. Stockton and Malone. Okay, let's go to the Spurs. They got 4.
It's a lot.
The Spurs have 4. Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan, Kawhi Leonard. That's 4, right, Skip? Is that a lot? It's 4 a lot?
No.
That's a lot, right?
You always tell me that Tony Parker and Manu are completely overrated. They're broccoli, and they don't belong in the Hall of Fame. That's what you told me.
Skip,
so the Spurs have 2. I'll give you 2.
No. Skip, stop that. First of all, you know Tony Parker's going to the Hall of Fame because he was Finals MVP. Manu's going to the Hall of Fame because of those rings and his international play. He led Argentina to the gold medal. You know he's going. Kawhi Leonard, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, 2 Finals MVP. Tim Duncan was ranked in the top. He was ranked ahead of Shaq and Kobe. So stop that, Skip. Stop it right now. And Golden State got 4 Hall of Famers. Go James!
A A highlight of CeeDee Lamb returning a punt in high school has gone viral, where he makes several defenders miss before scoring a touchdown. So, Shannon, be honest here. How impressive was this from CeeDee Lamb?
On a scale of 1 to 10, that's a 0. So you mean to tell me, Jenny, there's a wide receiver, a skill position player in the NFL, a wide receiver, tight end, running back, or defensive back that didn't have an impressive play in high school? How the hell you think they got to the NFL? Skip, everybody had plays like this. This is not unique. We're talking about this. This is Skip, Derrick Henry had one game in high school in which he rushed for fewer than 200 yards. So all of the games were between 200 and 500, and we're talking about a punt return. Skip, you've seen more impressive returns in college, in the NFL. High school? I know we're not. Skip, I know you're not impressed by this. Please tell me, Skip. Please tell me you're not impressed by this. Please tell me.
Shannon, you could already see it coming in high school. He could make you miss. Lord have mercy. I told you he's got wiggle, as you see demonstrated. Look at the make you misses in this one. Wiggle plus power. I told you that he plays faster and plays quicker than even he was timed. He's very special as run after catch. I believe he will also return some punts. I don't know, maybe even some kickoffs, but definitely punts for the Dallas Cowboys. I told you the day after the draft, he will change life in Dallas. And this is an early glimpse of what you're going to see next year. I know it was just high school, but that's pretty special. I've watched it 75 times, now 76, 77. I could watch it the rest of the day because I'm going to get to watch it live this fall.
Skip, every player that's in the NFL was special in high school. You could see it coming. There's not one player that's in the NFL that was not special in high school. You need to stop, Skip. You are ridiculous. I can't believe you. I really can't.
I'm with
Shannon,
Skip. I love it.
go.
Shannon, I'm going to pull some tape from you in high school. No way you're making those big plays. Guys, enjoy the end of The Last Dance. Have a good weekend. We'll be back Monday. See you guys soon.